Hello, everybody. We are here for another bizarre episode of Shackled City. This is episode 184. And if some of you guys were here previously, you may have seen that we were doing a little bit of pre-planning. I got a lot of notes, at least a full page worth. We'll see exactly how much of it is carried over. But first, we need to talk about what happened last time. What occurred on our last Shackled City?
Oh, well, if we're going to talk about that, everyone do me a favor, please. Get your chains, get your locks, and get ready to get shackled in for tonight's Shackled Recap.
Remind me to set up the soundboard so I can help you with your announcement next time, okay?
No problem. Anytime.
Actually, you ought to just go ahead and work with him to get it recorded.
Oh, no.
Yeah, why didn't I think of that?
Have it play every time you transition back to our game.
I could, yeah. Ronald, if you don't mind doing some recording, we might be able to do that to save you some breath.
No problem at all.
Okay. By helping, you mean spot muting. I support this plan.
Yeah, just throw up a little mute message when we were about to do it.
Okay. All right,
like
guys.
one of those signs in the audience.
So what occurred? What occurred last week? Not last week. Excuse me. 2 weeks ago when we played, some things did happen. What can we recall? What from memory happened anyway?
I remember what happened to me. That's about it.
Then go lead on, boy. Do your thing.
Okay, I was at the very end, but basically, I woke up after my robo surgery, and I had a talk with Nab the Tauren, where he was basically like, "Yo, dog, I just torched your town because you guys had something I wanted and you wouldn't give it to me. Sucks to fucking suck, nerd." And then I gave him a lighthearted punch to the chin like a good friend, and he wasn't really quite happy about it. And then he tried to induce the fear of 1,000 gods in me. It worked. And then he basically said, "Step the fuck back or I will kill you." And then left. That pretty much it.
Okay, yeah. So what did he want? What could he have wanted that would have been worth all of the effort? I'm generally curious.
I don't remember what it was.
That seems like it's important to write down.
Did he say what it was?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, let me I don't remember what he said at the time.
Does anybody recall?
Give me 1 second. I'm trying to look at the notes for it.
Yeah, I mean, Bub, I'm shocked right now that you think that we're literate enough to go ahead and write stuff down.
Well, I mean, other DMs keep trusting to put you in games. I would expect that you would at least try to write down notes. If they haven't seen any of the 183 previous episodes, then I guess that, well, there's no warning outside of that.
I can't help it, they keep coming for me.
Yeah, that's it. You're like a free agent.
He's a free something, all right.
Oh, man.
I might be a cheapo, but I'm not free.
That's good. That's good stuff.
You know, at least get me a bag of Pringles.
All right, chat. So then
I
it
can't
appears...
tell if it got...
A tube of Pringles.
Where the fuck are you gonna find a bag of Pringles?
A whole bag.
They ran out of tennis ball holders. Curious, chat. Maybe you guys can recall. It has been 2 weeks, and I understand if you don't remember, but if not, then maybe that information is lost. Is it lost forever to the abyss and the void? It's not like there's a VOD or anything out there.
Well, yeah, I can watch that after streaming and write it down then. But
No, watch it now. We'll wait.
Here, I'm gonna start it. I'll catch you guys in about 4 hours. I really gotta watch the whole session. That way I can really, get back into the mood.
Context is important, you know?
Yeah. All the disconnected parts of it, too.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
If I remember correctly...
Now, I'm still recovering from the double entendre that I think Fee accidentally didn't even think he did.
Yeah, I remember in part of the story, I think he mentioned something about saying he wanted to kill Cort sooner, but his master got in the way, or if he, because he didn't stop running when he attacked the town, that he would have been dead.
Well, yeah, but he's asking what he was there for, because it was something that my town wouldn't give him. I just don't remember what it was that they didn't want to give him. But they were basically like, fuck you, you can't have this. And he was like, well, fucking watch me.
All right.
And then he was going to kill me, and I got away.
Then it's lost forever to the void.
I'm just going to have to watch the VOD again. Or,
Right.
or Christy, I'm going to need you to tell me.
I would sooner bet on a two-legged horse than a regular-ass horse race, my guy.
Yeah, my bad. I
No,
can't.
it's okay.
remember
That's
that
like
detail.
one. It doesn't really pertain to your character, so I wouldn't expect you to take that note down. But it was valuable. It was definitely valuable information. It would start helping you guys tie some things together. Oh man, was it valuable information? Holy shit. Okay. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's
but
my
that's
bad.
okay.
I felt I was pretty sure I wrote it down, but looking back on my notes, everything looks like I hadn't touched it, which kind of sucks.
Look, man, you can
Did you
shame
put it
us
at
out
the
all you
Did you put it at the notes that are all the way at the bottom?
Red,
Yeah.
did he just threaten you? Is that all he was? Did he just threaten you? Can't recall. Like literally. what he
Well,
just
no,
said?
I mean, he threatened me, but he also said basically Ulhime worked with me, deal with that.
Okay.
Cort was like, I trust my friend at the moment. But you're right, I'll ask him about that.
I trust my friend at the moment.
Yeah, look, I'm always unsure if we're the bad guys or not. This
That's fair.
just is another thing to point it in one direction as opposed to the other direction.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. All right. So that was what we saw happening specifically with your character.
Yeah.
It was an important scene. It established many things. You learned that it was in fact him.
Yeah.
He confirmed it
Was-
himself.
Yep.
You additionally learned that he probably would have killed you had you not ran.
I also learned he likes his skin suit.
That's true. That's true.
He's
Why?
very fond of it.
Why?
Because it's Skellerang. You know, it's a pain in the ass to go get another new one as good as Skellerang's body, more than likely.
Maybe.
Or maybe he just likes the hairstyle.
He could just like the hairstyle,
Yeah.
but then again, like, you can replace clothes.
That's true.
There's something important about that body.
Yeah. But he's quite fond of it at the very least.
I'm curious. Does anybody remember the founding fathers of the town?
Ursula Skellering, Kronlert, Lidu. Is there one other?
Yeah, the one
The main, the primary, the one who established the town with his
yeah.
Bellmason.
spellmason.
Yep.
Sir Bar Spellmason. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, how did I fucking...
It's actually impressive that you remember
You only
the
were in
others.
his body for several episodes.
Yeah, you said Tercival, Skellering,
Yep.
Kronlert, and Lidu, and yeah, Spellmason. You would have came around to it. It's good though
Would
that you
I?
remember that.
What I have, though? I'm on hour, like, fucking... 18, 19, I don't know.
Jeez.
It's a long day.
Hey, you remembered some of them. I wouldn't have remembered one. I'd have been like Skellering. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't written down the notes. I just didn't have my fucking notes page pulled up. But either way, there's your 5.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So yes, those are your founding forefathers, and yeah, those were important for a myriad of reasons. Okay. All right. I just need to see something. I was just checking. All right. What was happening with the other characters?
Anyone else want to go, or
I was still recovering from being blind and talking shit to my dad, so that was pretty much it.
You didn't do anything else?
apart from helping to move Cort. No,
Okay.
nothing of note.
Okay, sounds good. All right. What about Rahk? I know
Went
that you
and
had some
talked
interaction.
to Chobs and Marion.
Yes, you did.
Had
How did
some
that-
discussions.
How did that fare?
It went well. We basically... Marion showed an interest in learning to be more of a passionate fighter than a cold calculating tactician. Given my propriety for rage, he decided to... Wow. He decided to ask me if I would teach him the ways of the rage, and then also assist in the studies of the underlings whenever he does get the academy set up.
What inspired that?
There was conversation surrounding I don't remember exactly what sparked the conversation, but it was surrounding how I felt on the battlefield, like what emotions were evoked.
He told you a bit about himself. Why he asked these questions, but what events sort of led him to ask these questions? Do you think it was just the attack on the town that he was in, or do you think that it was something more?
Realistically, probably a lifetime of seeing more effective combatants than himself on the battlefield, and wondering what it is that he's lacking to make that step.
He attributed this to many things. He did say that it would be important for establishing methods of training new warriors, that he'd been training for a while. But there's only so much that you can teach a knight before they encounter something that will inevitably topple them. More than anything else, though, he was tired of feeling a certain way. He said, "I'm tired of feeling what?" Anybody can answer.
Is the answer weak?
Yeah, it's weak. I'm tired of feeling useless. I'm tired of feeling weak. And he felt like he could offer more. He felt like he could give more. He's ready for the fire to reignite, but he didn't really know how to harness the rage because he was trained as a knight. Typically, you're supposed to be a bit more calculating. Press forces here, press this way, pincer move. Never channel this. Never
Just get a
channel
big
the
fucking
rage.
hammer and
Get-
swing it around.
Exactly. That was if two opposing forces were to meet. If your tribe were to meet his knight and knight intendants, there would certainly be suffering on both sides. There would be losses on both sides. But I think that just due to the sheer weathering and survivability, I think that the orcs, the barbarian tribe would probably win. Probably win. I mean, you would end up turning them into tin cans, like crushed cans. But that's inevitable, which is why they brought in the entire half-orc tribe of warriors to come in and defend the town in the place of their short-staffed guard.
Yeah, Rock's gonna recycle their asses. Crush all those cans.
Unfortunately, yeah. Okay. What was your interaction like with Chobs? Was he excited to see you? Was he scared? How did that go?
He was pretty fucking stoked about it, gotta say. He was, I think, as stoked, if not more so, to eat real food than to see me. But that is totally understandable given that they had been eating, what was it, stale bread, I guess, mostly? The leftovers from
Yes.
whatever the day were.
Yes. They were eating whatever was held over. And you guys, you couldn't recall. I mean, previously as Klaus, you know that Griffith wasn't about to let a kid go hungry. But at the same time, there's no point in serving stale food to people. Plus, his wife is there right now, and she runs a tight ship. She's not as forgiving. Not as forgiving, that's for certain. But he had food. They had food to eat. They ran through the money very quickly, and he was very excited about that. I'm stoked to see where that goes. I'm interested to see where a venerable one-armed barbarian is going to fit in this situation, especially as a human who's just been teaching. He's not technically had to wield a weapon in a while.
Like you're about to multi-class.
Yeah, that's fair. Seems good. So we know about Red, we know about Will, so we've learned at this point about Cort and Rahk. We know also what happened to Sniper's character, Jakob.
Yeah, though I apparently completely forgot that we ended the scenes off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you
him
remind him about what
going
happened with
back
Jenya?
to
Or not
Kiana's
Jenya?
office.
Oh,
finding
yeah.
her-
That was
Kiana,
the
the whole staying up late.
Yeah.
yeah, sending her off to bed and taking over the paperwork. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Slipped my mind too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I didn't sleep with you, bitch.
You are an impressive sort, sir. A cut above the rest. I'm excited to see how much she paddles you repetitiously with a blade. You're fucking
Not the blunt side.
not the blunt side. Mm-mm. This is only gonna go so smoothly. Tell me about Ulhime.
Last session, after pretty much trying to comfort Cort with being in pain, he was kind of eavesdropping on the conversation with Jenya and Jakob. He didn't hear too much about it, but he kind of caught parts here and there.
Okay.
Off of that, he was finally able to make a hero's feast for Jenya, so that way she could eat properly, which she hasn't done in a while, and kind of pretty much did like a quick clean up and tune up around her apothecary while they were there.
Right.
He also had a conversation with Thelsa, more or less kind of saying that he understands her a little more now, or at least he's willing to try to understand her, and kind of got some insight on her backstory.
What do you mean by backstory? That's not informative enough, and it's also semi-loaded.
About essentially like her past, why like she ended up killing her old party members, or essentially letting them die. She told him about that, not in full detail, but enough to kind of say like they weren't. Well, she didn't think one of them was a good person, and the family that she had wasn't really a family at all. They were more like prison, like wardens, because they didn't really love her. So she owned up to the fact that she wants to atone for what happened with killing her family, saying that she knows that it wasn't her, but that's why she's following We Just Now, is to kind of atone for it.
Would you say that her current party, your character included, would you say that you guys love her as you stated? Because that's what you said. You're like, they didn't really love her.
I mean, it's a slow process. I would say, in terms of where Ulhime stands with her now, it's more along the lines of a mutual understanding. He cares for her now. He's not so indifferent to any trouble she's going through, because he understands where she's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those things where if he sees that she's trying to put up a front to seem on a high horse, he's like, okay, well, she's being guarded. I'm not going to really press her for this, but at the very least, he wants Thelsa to be someone that he can talk to if she's ever having trouble. So I would say they're like officially friends. So he does care for her. It's not one of those things where it's like I'm sleeping with one eye open to, make sure you're not doing anything fishy.
Sure, that's fair.
Yeah. And then we were walking back to the bathhouse. I think Innie needed something. I don't remember quite in detail. And then I was going there for my original list on number 1, but at this point, I'm just going to probably be escorting her to the bathhouse and rounding out that night with some cleaning.
Okay. All right, then I think it's time that we start establishing some things that occurred in the interim. In that week, I was giving each of the players a week downtime. There will be some intermittent scenes that sort of gear you up for what is about to come. But first we can talk about the things that you succeeded in that week's time. I can start with some of the more obvious. Will as Rahk. Rahk wanted to spend as much time around jobs as he possibly could. Simultaneously, Marion has expressed an interest in learning some combat situations or scenarios where you might sort of enact in these rage-like modes. He doesn't even really know how to fully harness these things. Phelan, thank you so much for the 5 gift subs. I appreciate that. Guys, remember, 5 gifted subs activates a luck reroll for our players, and that is our first for the night. Thank you, Faye. I appreciate that. Very kind of you. So in this, by staying with jobs, by spending that time with Marion, it was like killing, 2 birds with 1 stone. They scouted for training ground. They found area just outside of the city. Not even fully off the mountain, so to speak. Which, in hindsight, might seem rather dangerous, but at the same time is still somewhat valuable. Being able to get inside of the city quickly is important. Additionally, you needed to spend time clearing the area so that whenever the masons come through, whenever the skilled trade can come through, that they can work quickly. Marion is eager to define himself as both the student and the teacher, and he knows that any time that you spend away will likely not be time for him to learn anything. So you'll start giving him some of the basics, some of the ideas, and you will find that there is frustration on both ends. It's hard to break old habits. And Marion is old. I won't say old as much as I'll say he's fairly long-lived for a knight. Humans can live up to X amount of years. I think we all agree that, right? Especially in tabletop games. Orcs are generally seen as living to a life cap of like 35, but they live that long, and that is supposed to be their in-cap life because that is about generally when they're felled in combat. At least that's the average. They can actually live much longer. Dwarves live forever. Elves live infinitely longer than everyone else. But in this case, a knight will cycle the drain right at around 40 or 50 years old, and Marion is as such. He's in his late 40s, early 50s, you can't tell. He's just past salt and peppering in the hair. At this point, he is treated as venerable. He's strong. He still exhibits some of these strengths. He carries himself in a way that a warrior might, but losing his dominant arm has certainly hindered himself. So the frustration is apparent. It is there in an amount that probably disgusts everyone on board. But he still listens, and he still puts himself in situations that sort of align him with this rage, with these fonts of rage, these moments where you feel Rahk as if he's going to succeed, as if he's going to hit that moment. But nothing yet. You'll have to think of some things. You'll have to offer in that time some lessons, some things that he might be able to focus on. You'll probably even have to push some buttons, because you know that it takes a lot to sort of draw that out of a person for the first time. Especially someone as calculating as a knight. They were taught over years to be able to weather the verbal slings and arrows. So it's going to take some time. But you give him some of the basics, he starts practicing these things, and he's actively back to structurally working out. You will, at the same time, be throwing your weapon into breaking rocks, tearing down boulders, stripping trees, basically dropping the area as much as possible. You know that you're probably going to have to burn out some of the stumps, and you don't have any immediate supplies on you, but it'll be easy enough to come by. It's not hard to start a fire at this point. But that's what your week is going to look like. So when it comes to downtime, it's outside of the city. You're not going to have much time with your cohorts, your comrades, if you will. Unless they specifically seek you out, of which I'm assuming that you probably would let them know that you've spent X amount of time outside of the city. They're not going to be able to see you much. Is that fair? Are you okay with that? Okay.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Cort. Red. In your downtime, we have two things that we can functionally establish from your list with sincerity. Healing is the most prominent.
Yeah, need to be able to get back in fighting shape.
Just to catch people up on the details from the previous sessions, the previous
I got
events.
no stomach.
Boyo here took a weapon blow from a magically aided and imbued weapon that has been referred to as the Alb Blade. And it started to unbind his body. Where the blade struck, he inevitably started to degenerate. His body started to break down. He lost his entire stomach, parts of his esophagus. His lungs began to deteriorate similarly. He also lost more of the important parts, but we're sticking primarily to digestive.
Mistakes were made.
Yep. This is where we found that there was a small, brand new, random surgery. The surgery brought about what they're referring to as the robo-stomach.
Once in a lifetime, as they say.
Yeah, he basically got a functional gearbox shoved into his gut. And
Yep.
with a little bit of effort, they were able to tether it to his esophagus. They were able to lay enough over the lung to give it time to heal. But his stomach is gone. This will functionally apply as a stomach and connector to his intestines. It's more or less a blender, and simultaneously it will stop him from forever getting poisoned going forward. At least internally, ingested poison. If it touches the skin and that's how it poisons, then that's fine. If it is something inhaled, that will still hit him, but ingested, not the
I'm
case.
Rasputin. Rasputin.
Something like that.
I
Something
can
like that.
eat whatever I want, drink whatever I want, I'll be fine. Actually, wait, does that mean I can no longer get drunk if Cort decides to become an alcoholic?
I
wouldn't be
think
able
I
to,
don't,
right?
I don't think it's that. I think it would be a matter of you having to consume infinitely
Would it?
more. Yeah,
Okay.
because they pretty much do you know how gastric bypass works?
Yeah.
Where they essentially
it's-
sleeve. Well, in this case, you lost a large amount of your intestine, so you're going to have to drink a lot
more.
a lot more, since you're basically going to
Can't wait.
flush.
Yeah.
You're basically flushing your system very quickly.
Oh boy.
But that's if you intend to go that far.
Probably not.
Now, you're going to need someone to care for you. You're able to get up and move around, but it's not comfortable, so your next week is going to look a lot like you healing and learning how to properly maintain this affect on your gut.
My physical therapy.
Correct. Where would you be staying? Because you would likely not be capable of staying alone comfortably.
I mean, I would probably be at the bathhouse. If there was anyone there who'd be willing to help me. Ulhime has been saying that he's been near me for most of the time, but I don't know if Ulhime's doing his own thing right now.
That's fair. Ulhime will probably be fairly busy. From the looks of it, it looks like he'll be pretty busy.
There's always Jenya too, so
Okay.
she can at least check in on me every now and again.
Will
She
you
can't
be-
give me 24/7 care.
Do you think you'll be staying at the apothecary?
I would prefer not to, but if everyone's busy, then, no real other person who would watch over me unless I go to like Sasha, and then I owe her a favor.
You already owe Sasha a favor, that's for sure.
Yes.
You've got options. But for now, it seems like you'll be staying at the apothecary.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny will care for you as per necessary, but there's only so long you can lean on those good graces. She certainly doesn't owe you anything.
Right. And if she asks me for money, I'm just going to pay her.
No, she's not that kind of a person. She wouldn't ask you for money.
Yeah.
She's the kind of person that would take all of her problems to the grave.
Mm-hmm.
But she's also really bad at hiding them.
I mean, Cort wouldn't feel great about it, but he'll just have to pay it back later when he can.
Sure, that makes sense.
Whether that's help like rebuilding the church or something, whatever she needs.
Okay, then that's what your week looks like. It looks like a lot of you spending that time trying to heal
Physical therapy.
and function with your robo-stomach. You will have some intervention from Keegan. Keegan will express that you will need someone to, until you feel comfortable doing it, basically applying a salve through what is equivalent to a medieval syringe.
Nice.
It's not going to look great. It's not going to feel great, but
Nope,
it's the only
probably
thing
not.
that's keeping your stomach
Question
working.
is, does it feel better than death?
Infinitely.
There you go.
Infinitely.
Can't complain then.
Okay. All right. So there is not going to be any more scenes there for you in that situation. With Thelsa not being here, Thelsa has expressed some goals, and she will mainly be busy, as much as she possibly can, preparing for an event that is coming up. Does anybody remember what that's called?
Ruby Convocation.
Correct, the Ruby Convocation. The Ruby Convocation is something that seems to be relatively important to her. It is being held, for some reason, in Cauldron this year. She has established that with the head matron of Ouijas. So, this is going to be the most interesting thing, and it's going to be happening within the next 9 to 16 days. It is up for any to explain that further, what the Ruby Convocation is, but essentially it is a meeting of all of the higher-ups to establish rapport, to start developing relationships, and figure out how they can make the church prosper in the town. Additionally, Thelsa, any as Thelsa, wished to spend as much time hiring work and aid for the church. The Church of Ouijas is in a state of disrepair, courtesy of Rahk being possessed. Oh, Fish. Fish with the 10 gift subs. Damn. Thank you so much, Fishy. I appreciate that. Very kind. That's 2 more luck rerolls. Perfect. What a big damn hero. Additionally, Thelsa's put out some feelers regarding a master seamstress. And she has expressed an interest in finding a large-scale ruby, regardless of the cost. Where that's going to be found, not sure. There's not exactly a bunch of free-floating jewelers in the town at this point. So, you guys will figure that one out. Xander.
Yo.
You've expressed that each morning, Ulhime wants to utilize a hero's feast. So that's 7 hero's feasts. Every day that will have been utilized. That's going to occupy that slot every time, so we can take care of that. It's also going to put more pie pieces in your chart. Just so everybody is aware, we have what is known as clocks. I discovered clocks in Blaze in the Dark. And essentially clocks are as such, it's a timer that indicates how long it's going to take for the players to achieve something. But it's only grown on real effort. And in this case, he's putting in real effort. So I'm going to add more pieces to your pie block here. I'm not going to fill up a ton, but I'm going to add a few. And that's good because, well, people are growing restless. They're very hungry. Food is sparse, it's hard to come by. They're also beginning to grow in amount that are ill. But if you were not doing this, the amount will be significantly larger. There'd be many more deaths happening daily. You do know that people are dying daily. You have not got an accurate reading or an amount at this point. Let's see. You wanted to gather info on the Priest of Cort? House specifically? How do you intend to do that?
Last time we talked, I believe we said if the Hall of Records itself was destroyed, it would be try to utilizing the mayor if he had any information or documentation on key figures like that in the city, that I might be able to garner that information.
Okay. All right. So that's another mayor talk then.
Yeah.
You wanted to speak with Keegan about acquiring an arm.
Correct.
Not a problem. We can make that happen. He will express to you that it is feasible, but it will simultaneously come at a cost. This will be a lot less tricky than adding a stomach to an individual because, well, it's not hard. Did you want to? How did you see this arm functioning?
Oh, I didn't send you the thing for the iron arm, huh?
You did not.
So essentially, like when the wielder equips it, it functions like a normal arm.
Yeah, you're gonna need to send that to me.
Yeah, let me.
And the likelihood of him being capable of making something like that is not exceptionally high. He is not a smith. And he's not got that many levels in wizarding. Keegan's a lot sneakier than everybody gives him credit for. You might just assume that at this point he's probably cross-classed for any levels that he might have.
It's in the Discord.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's see. What book is this from?
So I can provide the spell and the gold for it. And I can even try to make it with his assistance, if you're okay with that.
No. This is it's a third-party product. It's not a Paizo approved, it's a third-party product.
Oh, okay. It's just the one that Innie showed me, so I didn't know if you were okay with using it.
Might be able to make something similar. Remember, he's capable of functionally developing things that are like relating to Warforged.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be able to do something like that, but this is literally making a metal arm that mimics the functionality of a real arm perfectly.
Correct.
That's scary. Also very strong. Yeah, there's no way he can't make anything like this. Well, it's not very pricey as much as it is. This would be challenging to make. Yeah, this would be very challenging to make. But we can work on something like that. So that might be something we have to tackle in a bit. He does tell you that it's going to take him some time to research it, but he might be able to make something akin to that. It's not something that he feels very confident in making, especially the way that you're describing it to him.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like something that's outside of his wheelhouse, but he doesn't think that it's something that necessarily is a bad thing. He can work on it. So you'll have to come back to him. Keep that on your list of things to check in on, because Keegan's not going to hunt you down for it. You also expected or professed that you wanted to include some coin for fish provisions, as we discussed in the pregame.
Yeah.
That works well with Sniper. So you've both come together in that week's time at some point, and you've discussed sending out a Red Ribbon Runner to put in a requisition for 6,500 pounds of fish. We will give you a scene. You will have a scene here. It's not going to be between the two of you as much as it is with you and the mayor, but you will have a scene. Will also have a brief scene. And then the last person here, Sniper. Sniper, you wanted to confirm that you were acquiring food from Sasserine.
Well, there is that, yes, because we never had confirmation if Sasserine was going to provide a donation of
Correct.
stocks. So given the time that's passed since returning to Cauldron and the desperate need within the city, he's actually going to be hiring a Red Runner to, run 4,000 golds worth of gems to Sasserine to go ahead and purchase foodstuffs, despite knowing that it will take 2 weeks to go ahead and make its way back. It's something that is possible to be done, and he is just hoping that the city can hold out long enough for those to actually come in.
My curiosity, just for this, I know why. I'm not sure if you remember, but why wouldn't Sasserine or Red Gorge want to lend aid?
Red Gorge specifically wouldn't want to lend aid because the Blue Duke and
Tercion.
Tercion, Skellerine, actually marched on Red Gorge.
It wasn't Tercion. Was it Tercion?
Yeah, because he fought the paladin. Oh my god, I forgot his name.
Alec Tercival.
Tercival. Yeah.
He fought Tercival, who happened to be at that time playing the flesh suit for good old Daddy Nabby.
So you weren't Jakob then? I thought you were Jakob then.
Nope.
No, I was Jared.
Oh wow.
Remember,
Okay,
my
yeah.
older brother was killed. That's why I went ahead and took over the position of guard captain.
Yeah, there we go. That checks out. Okay. I definitely didn't forget that he died. I just didn't realize that it was soon after the fact. Okay, yeah, that checks out. Then yes.
But yes,
Yeah, the Blue Duke they brought the entire forces of Cauldron across the way to demand someone. Demand someone that was relatively important. And that's why Red Gorge. Any thoughts on Sasserine, why they might not send aid?
Potentially because of hearing about Red Gorge, or perhaps simply because we've never really associated with them in the past, say for standard trade.
Okay.
That and well, let's be honest, Jakob is not a statesman.
They've also know that Cauldron's in trouble because they keep having people immigrate into Sasserine as well.
Yes. Yes, this is true. This is very true. All right.
I mean, we've already sent several starving mouths that way.
Good. Good, then you're prepared. You wanted to continue your patrols? That'll be easy enough.
Continue my patrols, continue with assisting Kiana as much as possible with her paperwork to try and lighten the load. But last but not least, he would like to go ahead and at least dedicate an hour or two every day to the study of the staff. And the, trying to make heads or tails of it, since he doesn't think that the staff would actually continue to have dialogue with him.
Okay.
Certainly he'll go ahead and test out doing the same things again, but I figure it was just a moment of duress and, extreme need that prompted that. But yeah, that's
Those are your
pretty much all
goals.
he's going. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he's doing for the week.
Sounds good. So then, to jump right into this, to spring into the game, exactly where we left off last time. It is important to note and remember that Jakob offered his aid. He offered support. His goal was to provide Kiana with an opportunity to rest. He said that he would take over for the rest of the night. He was not expecting to be left holding the mantle as intensely, but she took quick aim and control of that offer, and she left him there. Now, curiously enough, are you the kind of person to stay specifically at the desk, or do you think that Jakob would be outside much? What does this look like?
Are we talking about the overnight?
Yes.
I think he would spend the majority of the time at the desk, but after several hours, he might step out for a breath of fresh air. I mean, stretch his legs, stretch his back. After all, he had already had a long day dealing with gods and dying friends and, well, already being a little stiff since, he hasn't slept since being let out of his stone state.
Okay, seems good.
So yeah, he might step out every so often just to stretch his legs and loosen up and try and stay awake.
Okay. And you do as such. You assemble the papers back on the desk. You try to find some semblance of an order, assigning what you can where you can, wiping up any bit of leftover food or ink that seemed to have been knocked over, stretching periodically. You just can't seem to shake that feeling that was sort of eked over your entire body. As you said yourself, from being turned into stone, it is a bit much. But doing the best that you can, you offer as much aid as you can. You restock the fire. You make sure that there are plenty of logs that can be tossed in accordingly. You find a replacement for the ink vial. You break down any old stems. You resort the paperwork. Stretch. Go back to the desk. Find something else to do. It's a lot of boring and mundane work. A guard will come through, a little startled that you're behind the desk. But he remembers and recognizes who you are. After all, you do have more or less a pin dictating that you're the second in command. You're appointed second-hand to guard. He won't think much of it, and he'll retire to an area for a break. The rest of the night passes by very uneventfully, so it's boring. Very, very boring. Honestly, I have no idea how Kiana manages to stand this. Sitting behind this desk, dealing with paperwork, not out there in the field doing something that is at least a bit more interesting. She likes to beat feet, get out there and meet people and handle problems, hands-on. This is...
Yeah, she's quite active.
Yes, this is not that. And you've seen it every time that you've arrived. She wears this weathered look of distress every time. And each time, the office is more and more disheveled. Do you think that it's unreasonable to come back and find that at some point, this desk might be flipped over or on fire?
Not at all, but in his past fake memory, he understands well how dull and boring it can be to go ahead and study long and hard at, at paperwork and books and tomes and such.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So, on the one hand, he's used to it. On the other hand, that never happened. So he's still somewhat used to it.
I'm curious to know how you carry Jacob. Knowing that you're alone, a lot of people talk to themselves. There are people here that will say that they don't, but I know when I'm alone and I'm frustrated, I may not be like, oh, hey, David, how's your day going? But I'll just be like, God damn it. Or, that's so stupid. I talk to myself. Do you think Jacob would find himself talking to himself in the situation at all?
I would imagine Jacob's quite talkative with himself.
Okay.
I mean, he was a fairly cocky bastard before everything happened to begin with. And, being overactive and such, he regularly talks to himself.
What sort of things, then, do you believe is weighing on Jacob's mind at the moment?
Well, there has been quite a lot of, discoveries over the last, well, technically week, counting in the time that he was made of stone. There was the, actually, come to think of it, he hasn't even slept since then.
Not really, no.
Yeah, because aside from being turned into stone, he got his... Sorry about that.
It's fine.
Got his noggin knocked around by a dragon. Went to the church and found his building blocks and suddenly remembered, his time there as an orphan. Turned around, decimated poor Cort.
This month for your character, honestly, month in game for your character has been like all of 2020. It's been the absolute worst awakening, period.
Oh yeah, found out that his, best friend may not actually be his best friend, and has actually dealt a deal literally with the devil. And just he hasn't really had time to face any of that. So I would imagine that quite often throughout the night, he's probably going to be talking to himself and just talking through the things that he's been that he's discovered, trying to trace back as much of his memory as he can to try and, hold on to a semblance of self. He probably offered to go ahead and do the paperwork because he felt his entire world spiraling out of control. And at least that was something that he could do.
It's mundane enough, allowing you an opportunity to sort of sort through those thoughts, those demons. I like that.
Yeah, and it was at least helpful.
I feel like that's a fairly defining moment for the character as well. Anyone looking in, anyone listening in, which, no doubt, there's always someone. Maybe the guard just down the hall who's struggling to get sleep may hear you in a muffled tone speaking to himself. But that's okay. Not like you're revealing anything that's too major, not as if he's going to believe you much anyway. There's only so much of a grain of salt that he has to consider. When, the second in command has 4 arms, is red-skinned, and has horns. Right? Like, you're not exactly an image or portrait of serenity.
No. Definitely the joyous part of having a father that's a Gulbarizu. And of course, every time his father helps him, the more the Gulbarizu comes out, apparently.
Yeah. Hours pass by. The night seems to tick on, and while it feels almost nearly endless, you can see bits of the sun eking over the horizon. There is a small, etched-out bit of stone that acts as a window, a porthole of sorts. Enough that anyone could probably leap up and grab to toss in like a baseball if it existed at the time. But nothing large enough for anyone to sort of escape through. But you can see that the sunlight is sort of creeping up over edge. You've talked to yourself for most of the night. You have a lot weighing in on your mind. There's a lot of introspection to be had. What's my father's intentions? How much was I lied to? How much did he construe? Is my friend even my friend? Is my friend working with the devil himself? What is even going on? Man, you were staying so adamantly busy that you weren't aware that there was a person that had stepped in. You didn't hear their footfall. You didn't hear them move up or speak. They were just waiting. A man. It looks to be a peasant of sorts. But he's waiting. He seems to be like cupping a hand and feverishly moving that hand as he's waiting. His face is weathered with distress. And when he sees you notice him, he just goes, like he wants to say more, but he doesn't know what to do.
Well, given that it is just before dawn, he'll reach out, rubbing at his eyes, and stop. I would imagine he'd been pacing in front of the fire or something, but stalking back to the desk, he'll wave the peasant down and slide out the chair for himself. Rest easy, rest easy. I am the second in command. My name is Jakob Rivers. How can I be of assistance?
As you near, he sort of like draws back. There's a mild recoil, and with hesitation, he's not really sure what to believe. I'm going to give him a chance here. He's going to sense motive. Not that he's got any points in this anyway, but he's going to try. You could be Jesus. He'd have no way of knowing. He pauses for a moment and is... Where is Kiana? Is Miss Green here?
Miss Green is getting some well-deserved rest. I'm taking her post for the night. If you would like to go ahead and wait for her, it could be several hours.
No. It's pressing. I don't know what to do or whom to go to help for. Can you help me?
I will do the best I can. Have a seat.
All right. He moves up, and quickly sits down. There's this like swift fall, and he still keeps like moving about like the fetters of his hands, just very, very carefully. He's pursing one hand over the other, and it's like a clenched fist. And there's a whiteness to his knuckles, like he's either anxious or he's fearful. You're not really sure what it is and that is about him, but it sends up some red flags. You can tell that he is concerned or scared.
So what seems to be the problem?
My daughter's gone missing. She's gone missing, and we've been out most of the night. I hate to admit this, but we've stayed out past curfew, and my wife and I we've been looking, and my oldest son, and we can't find her.
No, that's perfectly understandable, staying out after curfew given the situation. How long has the girl been missing?
We saw her last night for dinner, and she was acting strange, so we had sent her to bed early.
Strangely.
I'd assumed that she was speaking in fevered pitch and saying strange things. And she said that she was going for a trip to visit someone, and we didn't think anything of it. It's just,
all right.
She's...
And here he'll go ahead and try and find a clean sheet of parchment and dab the quill to go ahead and start taking notations. No, it's quite understandable, your duress. We'll do the best we can to go ahead and help you find your daughter. What's her name?
You know, I haven't thought of this. Chat, why don't you help me?
Hell of a father you are! Goddamn!
Chat, why don't you help me here? What's the name of this man and his daughter?
Annabeth.
What do we think, Chat? Annabeth and Fabio?
What should I inscribe on the tombstone once I've found her?
Barkley and Isabella, Bob, Sniper Let, Gareth and Bryn, Jeanette, Cheese and Pepperoni. Wow. Wow. This is we are going far. Wow. Come on, guys, you got this. Give me some good names here.
Guys, remember, we're the ones that's supposed to be sassing them, not you guys.
Honey and Nugs. You're terrible.
Fucking Karami.
Yep.
Emmett?
We're going to go with...
Personally, Gareth and Brienne works for me. Jen, actually, more Drummond and Amber.
I like that second one there. We're going to go with Gareth and Amber. Gareth and Amber. He says that his name is Gareth and that his daughter, her name is Amber.
Surname?
Surname, we'll call them Wittenholm.
So you saw her last night after some feverish babbling. She was sent to bed, but being unable to sleep, she stepped out to, you said, see a friend.
We didn't even see her, and we recall putting her to a room. and we didn't find anything. She wasn't in her room. There were no signs of her even being in her bed.
Is this a habit of hers to slip out while you're not looking?
No, not like her at all.
How old is the child?
She is 9 years.
9 years old. That's quite young.
Yes, we're very afraid. She has taken ill lately. She seems to have come with a cough, and well, I most of the town people have, and we're not sure if it's because of our own doing or if there is something else. If we are just cursed with poor fortune.
Gareth, if such were the case, we're all suffering that same curse.
Yes, well, I will take upon every curse to see my daughter return. It would make... I will suffer whatever is happening to this town and our family, if it means that Amber will find her way home.
And we'll do everything within our power to go ahead and find this girl for you. In the meantime, can I just get a short description? 9 years old, color of her hair, eyes.
He tells you that her hair is like dirty blonde. She's thin, even for her age, rather frail. There's not much of a description. You notice from his clothing that he is just above the homeless. So you're talking like peasantry, but not... You're not sure if it's like skilled trade or not, but you can tell he's a worker. His hands are rough. His face has seen the sun many a day, but he doesn't look homeless. So you're expecting some sort of similar clothes for his child.
Jakob will take the usual notations, where they live, where they've already searched, so on and so forth. But knowing what he does, he'll, taking down the usual notes. You said the last few days that she's developed a cough and fever, similar to what everyone else has?
He nods.
Well, I do understand. You've actually been speaking with Lady Jenya quite often about this situation. But just out of curiosity, being you would probably know best, if she were to go anywhere at all off the top of your head, somewhere you haven't searched already, where would she most likely go? Is there a particular friend she's close to? Is there a family member?
All of our
perhaps
family.
just a quiet place that she likes to go to think.
Since the attack, there's been no one. No one. We live just outside of the inner ring, and her friends were recently slain. And now she has no friends. She's been speaking of someone that we've never met before, and we know that there's no one that's moved in to the area.
Their name?
He calls this person Char.
Char.
I want to say Char or Car. It was always very quick, and she seemed very excited, and we hadn't seen her smile in days. After her friends were slain, she has spent that time weeping.
Understandable. Many of us lost friends and loved ones during the attacks. And he'll go ahead and write down Char.
We were the only home that made it out from the attack. Everyone around us died.
It's a hard weight for anyone to go ahead and bear, let alone a 9-year-old, a child. These are the kinds of things that most children are capable of understanding, and it's far too early for her to have to come to this. I understand where you're coming from, and as I said, we will do our best. Limited though we are, we do take every request as seriously as possible, and I'll personally report this one to Lady Kiana and look into it myself. And, well, knowing where you live, I'll try and follow up with you over the next few days.
If you could, please, give me a diplomacy.
Oh, this is going to go great. Because you're probably already looking at my diplomacy going, man, this is going to suck.
I don't know what you're talking about. You've got 3 luck rerolls. Did you want to use
one?
You want to stick with it?
Let's go with the second one.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, all right.
And that third one's coming in handy.
Oh my fucking god. Oh, god damn it, every time. All right.
Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm.
Pray to God I don't need to go ahead and do anything else that needs a reroll.
You can thank Fish Food and Phelan for those luck rerolls, because as fast as you blew through them, you just prevented him from doing something incredibly stupid. He seems to accept what is that you said, and with an audible swallow, he says to you, if there is any more that my wife and son and I can do, please, come to Lowan Street, and, well, you'll hear us. We have a house full.
The best thing you can do right now is make sure that, 1, somebody is always at home. 2, feel free to go ahead and walk the streets and neighborhood, speak with your neighbors, see if anyone has seen her.
My neighbors
I'm sure
died.
you already have, but
my neighbors died.
Well, surely you have somebody living somewhere around you. Other people you may speak to.
Give me a sense motive.
Let's go ahead and just pop that sheet out so I don't have to go ahead and keep. Yeah, I'll stick with that. Well, I've got no choice.
Yeah. You can sense his frustrations. They're mounting. When you say that, well, I'm sure there's someone. His eyes furrow, and his hands, while they still continue, he just kind of bites his lip, and he purses them in a method to sort of conceal additional frustration. You've seen the face before. You've read this on your allies before. Do you say anything? Do you do anything?
Understandable. But as I said, just stay at home. Keep someone at home at all times. Look in the usual places. I'll pass along her description amongst the men. We'll keep an eye out. Make some inquiries. If we can find out more about this char, I'm sure that will certainly be helpful. And if anything else comes to mind, anything unusual that's happened over the last few days or week, you can come to this office at any time and we'll be more than happy to take any further information you can provide.
Before you even finish, he just nods, and he stands up and he walks out. The frustration is there. It's audible. With exasperation, he leaves the building. Now, you know that while a lot of the finances have been tied up inside of the city, you don't know exactly where all of the streets are. You don't know the names of every street. But there is a map on the wall. Did you want to take a look to see where Lowand is?
Certainly.
You stand and you sort of trace around the map until you find Lowand, and you realize that it runs parallel to Lantern Street, and it is about 60 yards from the place that the Fire Titan struck with his fist, killing all of the homeless, where the highest amount of damage was sustained from the goblin attack, where the most death was found.
Yep. And just kind of standing there, and after finding it, he'll kind of hold his arms and understanding just what he's probably said to the man and put him through. I don't see how Kiana does it day in and day out. Well, it's not like I'm actually known for my bedside manner.
And with that, we are going to turn. We're going to move the camera. That was everything that had happened before your week. The rest of this time, as it passes around you, as it moves, it's going to go swiftly. The times that you happen to have are going to be easy for some of you, harder for others. But we're going to make the most of it. Now, there are a few scenes for each of you. Who'd like to go first? It doesn't matter who it is, but we can take care of it. We can knock it out.
Will.
Okay, all right. See that shit.
He's got voluntold.
The voluntold is perfect. It's okay. Your scene is probably not all that long, to be honest, and we can make good sort of this.
Let's fucking do it.
Okay. You've expressed in your time that you wished to see a historian of sorts. You wanted to find the history of Cauldron, and with your needs and your position in the town, you've been granted access to just that. It is the history of Cauldron, as far back as it has been recorded. And I have some of that information for you. What you wish to do with that is totally up to you. It's your call. But I can give you some of that information. Now let's get to the nitty-gritty. And we'll find, bam, there we go. It is a large-scale book. It is quite significant in its feature and design. In order to lay this thing out to encapsulate absolutely everything that is placed here, you're going to need a table. This isn't something that you can just carry around and flip the pages quickly. This is a tome. This is a table worth of pages. So, the history in itself starts in one of the more bizarre times. Your timeline actually starts with details of people from other planes developing, first and foremost, the Demon Scar. For some reason, in a varied font, definitely by someone you're not super familiar with, because most of this writing has an intrinsic design to it, but what you're currently reading, it seems like it's been steepled off and almost as if it's been written in blood. This area was formed from subjugated ogre tribes that were controlled from the Demon Scar. Since then, it indicates that the ogres themselves had fallen off. Something had occurred. They were no more. You're not sure what that is. You've seen nothing as the way of proof to indicate one way or another, but they're no longer there. Additionally, you're seeing that other tribes have been driven out as well. There's an image. It's not even a word. It's literally an image of what looks to be like a fish man, which out of game, you recognize as the people that you met from the Copper Ruins. They are no longer there. And everywhere it seems to be signed SW. You're not sure whom that is, what that is to indicate, but SW is the signature for each. The font seems to change. It seems to change significantly. And it starts to write in first person. At this, you see that somewhere they indicate themselves as a young leader by the name of Surabar. Surabar indicates that he had 720 years ago a vision of something larger than himself, something more beautiful. This vision was told to him by a voice angelic. That voice angelic named themselves Nidrama. Surabar was told that he would have to defend the region from a demon onslaught. And while he doubted it, he could not doubt the proof that was laid before him when a divine weapon named Alakast was given to him. You realize that this history isn't of just Cauldron. This is of the region itself. The book then indicates that 20 years later, Surabar defined an area on the coast, and he founded the city of Sassarine. Five years later, he founds Red Gorge. It is indicated that it says, and I quote, "With the aid from the many skilled, we founded Red Gorge in the shadow of a great volcano. And I was called upon by Nidrama again to ascend the basalt bastions. It is 5 years later, after fighting back a shadowed threat from what is now currently called the Demon Scar. He actually lists a name. Looks like something happened to that name, like it may have been thumbed through midway, but what you catch is a Y, an E, a thumbprint, and then GHU. So something occurred with that right there. It also seems as if there is some very, very fine print, as if he tried to scribble in something additionally. Did you want to try to make that out? Surabar's writing was doctors-like writing. So if you wanted to try to make that out, give me a linguistics.
Okay. Not what I wanted to hear from you.
I figured. Let's see. 13? That's not bad.
13.
Did you want to try to re-roll? You have 3 luck re-rolls. It's your call.
Yeah, fuck it, I'll give it a shot.
Oh, rolled off of the
shit.
17.
It's not worth it. No. Screw it. It's my one extra try.
Okay. All right. It said, as far as you can tell, that this figure with the thumbprint, the Yi something goo,
The Yee-goo.
he basically had figures that followed him, and you can't really make out the name. You're not really sure what the figures' names were, but he had primary, like, admirals or generals or something like that. 5 years following, at 690, Surubar Spellmason is listed. I've managed to defeat Nap the Tauren in combat, and I broke the back of the demon host of the Demon Scar. This still remains dangerous to this day, and they may fully recover, but they will not forget the sound of defeat. We've established our forever home in this crater. There are 5 names listed. You recognize the 5 names. Well, you as Will recognize the names. Your character might not. You see, Tercival, Surubar Spellmason, Skellering, Koza Lidu, and Hronlert. They were the 5 founding families. Each of them were strong enough in their own rights. Each of them bore symbols. These symbols were important. Spellmason was indicated with a staff. Koza Lidu was indicated with an eye. Hronlert was indicated with a religious symbol. Basically, it looks like prayer beads. Tercival, Tercival was the gavel, and Skellering was the blade. Many of the other bits of information here they seem to be written by various hands, you can tell. The font changes, the color changes even so, but it seems to shift between a myriad of people. It says that 10 years later, there are a discovery of numerous profitable mines in the region that's attracting hundreds of prospectors and adventurers. Red Gorge inevitably outgrows its walls, and Surubar established that any and all are welcome into Cauldron. It is unfortunate, but 30 years later, it is named that Surubar Spellmason, our lord, our creator, the definer of our home, has died of natural causes. He was to be entombed in an undisclosed location. 50 years later, Kingfisher Hollow and Hollow Sky was founded. After what appears to be a disastrous fight against the Wanti, they managed to form several small encampments at the jungle's edge. 200 years later, Shatterhorn was founded. It continues to jump over and over again until what looks like this at 200 years ago from this current timeline. A red dragon terrorized the region. At least he was described as such. A red dragon by the name of Hookface terrorized the region. 100 years following, Hookface retreats to his lair north of Cauldron. There are reports that there were 2 dragons that descended into his lair, but they cannot vouch. It is up to this point that the book seems to end at 75 years. So 75 years ago. And it says Jazadrune, Jzadirune, Jazadrune. And the people of Cauldron are struck with the vanishing.